Hello, welcome back. We are discussing in this session the time management, work breakdown structure, and sometimes we call it in Prince2, for example, product breakdown structure and project breakdown indeed. So in the project, we discussed last time the business case, we discussed about the scope management, we discussed last time the project charter. So the project initiation documents, when we're doing project to be initiated in the first phase of the project, is important. Then we move the project to the next phase when we're doing planning, and that is very, very important. Planning is the paramount of any project, and it is always said that a proper project planning prevents poor project performance. So the planning is one of the most important component that the project manager and the team get involved to prepare the plan for the time management, cost, the budgeting, along with the charter you have in hand, the project initiation document and scope statement. So this is important to bring the project to be delivered, executed and completed within scope, within time, budget, and of course the quality to ensure the end benefit are realized. So we are looking to discuss both time management and work breakdown structure, and as the key tools that can be helpful for any project to be successfully executed and delivered and then handed over to the client, to the end user or the owner of the project. So this is important that we need to think that time management is essentially the ability to efficiently utilize time spent on various tasks or the work packages or every small chunk of work as per the schedule timing. Time management within a project also involves organizing and planning how to divide time between different tasks or subtasks. So now the question is, what exactly then time management within a project context? So we can see that time management basically refers to a component of overall project management in which a timeline is analyzed and developed for the completion of a project and key deliverables of the projects. So it depends how big is the project as per the size, nature and complexity of the project. However, taking control of time will help the manager or the team to manage the workload in order to complete the project or projects more efficiently and on time. So time management is one of the key aspects of the effective basically any project planning or project task management. So assigning time to the tasks or different tasks is quite important for timely completion of the project. This means that breaking down the project into different tasks. So project breakdown, when we decompose project from complexity to simplicity, and then we have all the work packages, because if it is not done properly or appropriately, poor time allocation can lead the project toward disaster, to lead the project to ineffective decision making and increase stress within the project team. So time management can be better managed if the project is decomposed with the appropriate work breakdown structure or product breakdown structure. So let's look into how work breakdown structure is more appropriate when we are looking for before we say how time will be allocated to the overall project. We need to know what is included in the project, how the project total work can be divided or break down in every nitty-gritty, all the specification or small things that needs attention to allocate time and resources. So this is just an example. Last week we discussed, if we take the example of a new warehouse, so we need to decompose in 3 key deliverables or key milestones, and then we can further decompose or break down in a small chunk of work, and each activity that we are decomposing become like a work package, and sometime each deliverable becomes like the mini project within the project, and that need a project team leader, and then we have to allocate both the deployment of staff and other resources, and then we go bottom up to calculate the time to be allocated. So to recap from the work breakdown structure from last week, the first principle of planning is the deconstruction. We decompose, break the product and the work into tasks. If it is work, then it is work breakdown structure. If it is a product, then we do product breakdown structure. So dividing complex project to simpler and manageable tasks is the process identified as work breakdown structure. Otherwise, in the Prince2, we just divide the product in different chunk and components, and we say product breakdown structure. So the key definition, just to recall, that deliverables oriented hierarchical presentations of work to be executed by the team to accomplish the project objective is basically work breakdown structure. The key purpose is basically to organize and define the total scope of project, as we discussed in the last week, as the element of project scope management. So breaking down the large activities in comprehensible or manageable unit is one of the key important characteristics of work breakdown structure. So the work breakdown structure takes a highly involved project activity or design and break it down into smaller manageable sections that can be easily allocated and tracked down to completion. It is performed before any cost or time estimation is fully determined. So it is quite important element or key tool that help us before we estimate time management or any cost for the activity or activities within project long list of activities to perform. So let's say this is an example. We have to install new computer. We again have to give a code to the project with each milestone on deliverables with the numeric coding, and we know that three key important milestones. We have to define the needs. This is going to be one of the major activity to perform, and then select the suppliers and then implement the new system. So it is the procurement, let's say, become 1.2 is the key activity. So we further break down each one. So we just take the example of the procurement supplier. We do further decomposition, and we do three important activities here or sub activities of the supplier selection, and we then numerically code them according to the main coding, and then we get to identify the right supplier, shortlist them and go for trial. We can further subdivide each activity to further sub activities, and this can be further coded as per the numeric coding, and then we decide and confirm who is more appropriate. So this is the just one simple example how we do work breakdown decomposition, or how we do the work breakdown structure. So the key principles and work breakdown structure, basically it is important that the all elements are taken in consideration, and we mutually exclusive look into each branch describes a distinct project output or deliverables. So we look into each subordinate element belong to only one superior element. That is the key principles, that we know what activity can be performed by whom and who gonna supervise that particular task or work package. So collectively the exhaustive 100% rule is applied as a key principle with the work breakdown structure. So together all branches in the graphical illustration or the flow chart of the work breakdown structure has the entire project scope to have the master plan in place, the decomposition and the deconstruction of the project in every small chunk or element that need to be performed. So an example, for example, we are building or constructing a house, and we're looking here that a house building requires, let's say, an example, 4 important key milestone. So we have an online video clip that's hyperlinked that you can watch. How we need to obtain the approval, what exactly that is the business case to justify why this project, who will sanction and approve, the sponsors or the owner of the project. We need to do the construction, that is the real work, all the interior, exterior, civil work, and then of course the layout garden when the construction civil work is done, and then how to manage the project for commissioning, handing over, and the owner to get the benefit out of it, and how to maintain if there is different appliances and different equipment that need to be handed over during commissioning. So the construction key milestone as a deliverable can be further subdivided. It becomes like a part of a mini project within the project. If it is given to the contractor to do the construction, or it's going to be done in-house or outsourced, so we know that this will be further subdivided or decomposed for foundation work. We do the erection, the framework, the civil work, roofing, and then any utilities to be installed, and for example the cladding installation. So this is level 1 to level 2 to level 3. So each milestone can be further decomposed, and there will be further breakdown to go to the bottom and include the complete list of activities, main activities and sub activities. So the activity list and the from breakdown, that is because a breakdown structure is a project management and a system engineering, basically, which is a deliverable oriented breakdown of a project into smaller components. So a work breakdown structure is a key project deliverable that organizes the teamwork into manageable section. So from there we get a complete list of activities, major activities, minor activities, and then we get this activity list in a tabular form. So we have all the milestones, activities, when to start, when to finish. We get this data information for WBS and insert in the software tool. We call it Gantt chart. And then the Gantt chart shows us the activities that can be performed one after the other or side by side, or they can gonna be completing when the one is finished, the other starts. So we are looking at how Gantt chart can be applied with the time management to apply that, how long it will take. So we can have the duration for each activity. That is our best estimation. So we make a baseline through work breakdown structure to manage the time, and then we can also deploy or allocate resources to perform that particular activity. So Gantt chart can be very helpful tool for assigning time as well as the resources to each activity to be performed. So we are looking to the list of the activities. This is the list of all the actions needed to complete the project deliverables. And each schedule activity has attributes that need to be documented. For example, the successor and predecessor of each activity, the lead and leg information, and the person responsible for completing that particular activity should be also documented. That means this information is important when it comes to the scheduling or schedule development and project control. So we have the complete list of activities, and each activity has a numeric or alphabetical coding, and we know the time or the duration for each activity to be completed, and then during execution what has been planned during planning phase, that is the baseline, and actually how much time is spent and how much work has been progressed or already achieved. So that is very important, tracking of the progress. So the activity list and Gantt chart are used for any project, irrespective of the size and nature of the project. We are using, let's say from the previous slide example, if this is a house we are constructing, so how long it will take to do the foundations, how long it will take for civil work and for the roof installation, for example. So we make our best estimation. Again, when we are estimating, it comes from the expert judgment and the experience of the project manager or the project team, from brainstorming to understand what is the best estimation, looking into various other factors taken in consideration. So we know the duration, and then we schedule when this activity will start and finish. And then we put this information in the Gantt chart, and then we get the bar graphical illustration, which shows different activities can be performed only one after the other, not side by side, because foundation can be completed before, and civil work or brickwork or walls building cannot be done unless until foundation is done. And similarly, roof cannot be done unless until the walls are completed. So they are quite, the activities are in sequence, in sequential order, one after the other in this example. However, there are different deliverables or part of project activities that can be done side by side. For example, when the roof is done, we do the further activities in the interior of the construction. So maybe plumbing, electricity, drain, they can be done at the same time, or flooring can be done along with the plaster work. So we are looking to the Gantt chart. We know the historical background, just for your understanding, that you must know that it was the lady Henry Gantt. Back in 1910-15, she introduced a chart for time management in a project to track the progress. And a Gantt chart is basically used for planning project of all sizes. It was a Gantt chart which is used as a type of bar chart that illustrates a project schedule. So a project of all sizes, they're using the Gantt chart as a useful tool. It helps in showing the work is scheduled to be done on a specific date or time. It can also help the project manager or the team view the start and end date for project in one simple chart. So that is the key benefit of the Gantt chart. Gantt chart have become a common technique for representing the phases and activities of project work breakdown structure in a graphical illustration along with a tabular illustration. So a Gantt chart is a project management tool assisting in the planning and scheduling of the project of all sizes, although they are particularly useful for simplifying complex project. So Gantt chart widely used on a project because they provide an effective presentation which conveys the planning and scheduling information accurately and precisely. So that's again very important. The project management timelines and tasks to complete are converted into horizontal bar charts showing the start and end dates within the Gantt chart, as well as it also shows the dependencies or the the successor activity or predecessor activities and their dependencies on one on the other, scheduling and the deadlines for each milestones, and including how much of the task is completed in a particular stage or phase of the project, and who is the key responsible person as the task owner within that particular deliverables. So this is useful to keep tasks on track when there is a large team and many people are involved with multiple stakeholders when the scope is changing, for example. So the Gantt chart is giving us quite a good graphical illustration, and again there's a video clip for you to watch as hyperlinked in the week 5 workshop folder. And this activity list with the all clear start and end time of the activity, we know how they're going to be shown in a graphical illustration for the time schedule for any particular project. Now, it is important to understand how these activities can go one after the other or side by side, how they are dependent on each other, and this is where the organization trying to use a project technique to make the best use of their resources to have the project completed within time and budget, rather it is before it becomes part of the business as usual or become part of the operation. So we are looking for a diagram. We call it a net diagram. Well, the activities from the activity list need to be connected to make a more sensible approach to apply to complete these activities with the best use of resources. So we are trying to have the network diagram as a visual representation of the workflow of different activities within the project. So a network diagram is basically a chart that is populated with the boxes noting tasks and responsibilities of different resources, and then the arrows that map the schedule and the sequence that the work must be completed. So you can see this, for example, an example for your understanding how a network diagram can be used if you want to have a project, and then we can sequence the diagram according the project different key tasks or elements or activities or sub-activities. They can be graphically illustrated. It's just become like a map with arrows and different nodes or boxes. It can be circular or it can be square, and then we have to keep this in sequence that the activity can be performed one after the other or side by side. However, the network diagram can be either have the activities on the arrow or it can be on within the node. So we use the technique most often. A project network diagram is depicted as a chart with a series of boxes and arrows. So we know that, for example, there's a list of activities, and we know these activities are having a precedent relationship. So activity 1 has no precedent activity, so that is basically start of the project. So we assume this is where we start the project, but the two activities, second activity, can only be started when 1 is finished. So that is dependent on 1. Exactly 3 is dependent on 1. So that means 2 and 3 can start at the same time. However, both are dependent on activity 1. And you can see this table is now illustrated in graphical illustration. So 1 is start of the project. 2 and 3 can start at the same time, but only when 1 is finished. And this is how it goes on with the precedent relationship. So this means the network diagram tool is used to map out the schedule and work sequence for the project, as well as track its progress through each stage up to the completion of the overall project from its start till its end. Now we need to see how these activities can be completed side by side or one after the other, and how we can find the path which has zero tolerance and we cannot delay in the network diagram. So we basically looking to the example here. For example, if this is the list of activities, we need to is a tool network diagram to make a T, and this is the number of activities. So we have coded them. It's a numeric code 1 to 9, for example, and then we have the activity description. This is what we need to do, and you can see here from 1 to 6 activities have no the precedent activity. So there is no activity that they have to be dependent on, and we can see there is nothing mentioned here. However, activity 7 has a precedent activity. Pour hot water into cup can only be done if we know the boil water is there, we know the tea bag is collected, and the cup is there. So these 3 activities are quite important to be done before we pour water. So the cup is there, and we also have a tea bag and the boiled water in the kettle to start the next activity. And then, of course, before you leave to brew, this activity 8 is dependent on 7, and then before you add sugar and milk or stir it, so the activity 9 is definitely dependent on all these precedent activities here. And this is how this activity from the table can be shown in graphical illustration. So we start the project with all these important activities in parallel, and then do activity 7, 8, and then the 9 has to be dependent on these 4 activities, 4, 5, 6, and 8, and that is the end of the project. So start to finish from the table, this list of the activity to this network diagram. So when we look to the, for example, another example, so we have to design a course and we need to have a particular training program, and this is the coding, again is not numeric, this time alphabetical codes, and we have the description of the different activities, and then we can see the precedent activity. So activity A, B, C is not dependent, so they all three are starting at the same time and they have no precedent activity. However, D is dependent on A and E is dependent on B. However, F is dependent both on E and C, and so on so far. So let's look into the graphic network diagram here from this table, and we can see that this is how it should look like. So we have A, B, C as a parallel start of the activity. We assume we start from here, all these three activities without delaying any time, and then these are the dependent activities which go in sequential order, these two in parallel, one side by side, and by the activity we reach to the last activity, J, dependent on G and H, we end the project at the activity K, which is dependent on J. So the discussion that you need to continue, that how the project breakdown, time allocation is important, and how we do work breakdown structure. So it is very important that you look into the workshop case study and the clips that's been uploaded, the video clips and the articles. So time management is basically one of the key aspects of effective task or project management, or the project decomposition or breakdown. We need work breakdown structure to help us for all the tasks that are highly involved in any project activity or design, because of the breakdown of the work into smaller manageable section that can be easily allocated and tracked to the end of the project completion. So based on the Ashley article, 5 time management strategy for project management, which was published in 2019 from the Northeastern University. Please read the article and share your thoughts and ideas on the discussion forum for week 5. Also read your core textbook and the other important recommended your online book chapters for time management, work breakdown structure. And please do keep safe, take care, and enjoy the rest of the week. We'll definitely have a discussion in the workshop for week 5.